The moon over Lythis was heavy and pale. Its light poured through the tall windows of the palace, silvering every corner like a dream she couldn't wake from. Queen Alara stood before her mirror, watching her maids smooth the folds of her gown. The ivory silk whispered like a sigh against her skin, the sound of waiting. 9 years of waiting. You look radiant tonight, your majesty, her maid murmured, fastening the last clasp. Perhaps the king will. Alara smiled softly. Don't hope for me, Lyra. I've forgotten how. The words sounded calm. But inside, her heart still trembled the way it always did on nights like this, on the nights she walked to him. 9 years of a marriage untouched. 9 years of silence where love should have lived. The kingdom called her the untouched queen. To some, she was tragic. To others, a failure. But to herself, she was just tired. The door burst open, spilling light and energy into the room. Alara. Her sister Princess Lyra swept in, crimson skirts flaring like flame. You're still not ready? I brought something. She held up a tiny vial that glowed gold in the candlelight. A fertility draft. Old southern magic. Even the wolves swear by it. Alara's breath hitched. Lyra, please don't refuse me. It's been 9 years. The court whispers. They pity you, Alara. They pity us. Alara turned away, her reflection flickering in the mirror like a ghost. I know what they say. I hear it in their silences. Lyra's tone softened. You'd be a wonderful mother, sister. You love so deeply. It isn't fair. Alara smiled without joy. Fairness isn't for queens. Her fingers brushed the vial, warm from her sister's palm. Thank you. But no potion can fix a marriage that's already asleep. Lyra frowned. Then wake it. I've tried. For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them filled with unspoken things: envy, hope, fear. Then Lyra whispered, maybe tonight will be different. Alara forced a smile. Maybe. But hope was a dangerous habit. She'd tried to quit it before. Later, when the palace quieted and moonlight turned the marble halls to silver, Alara began her walk. The same one she'd made every month for 9 years. Past the portrait gallery. Past the nursery that had never known laughter. Her steps echoed softly, one heartbeat after another, as if the palace itself remembered her sadness. The nursery door caught her gaze. She hesitated. Sometimes she imagined it full, sunlight spilling over tiny blankets, a child's laughter echoing like music. She would have been a good mother. She could feel it in her bones, that ancient, endless tenderness waiting for someone to love. She whispered to herself, if he'd just looked at me once and truly seen me, maybe everything would have been different. Would you still wait? She wondered. Would anyone? Would you still walk that hallway after 9 years of silence, hoping the door might open just once? Alara swallowed hard and moved on. When she reached the king's chambers, she paused. Her hand hovered above the heavy oak door. Behind it lay the man she'd vowed to honor, the one who'd never reached for her. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin, restless, aching, hopeful in spite of reason. She knocked softly. Your Majesty? Silence. Ronan, she whispered. Still nothing. She opened the door. The room was dark, the fire reduced to embers. Shadows draped the bed in quiet shapes. But she could feel him. The air carried his scent, wild, sharp, full of storm and cedar. It made her wolf whine softly, a sound that hurt to hear. She stepped closer. It's time, she murmured. Her bare feet brushed something cold. She looked down. A glass vial lay on the floor. Empty. Alara bent to pick it up, brought it to her nose, and froze. Her blood ran cold. A sleeping draft. Her husband had drugged himself. The vial trembled in her hand as her gaze moved to the bed. There he was, the Alpha King of Lythis, asleep, his chest rising and falling in slow, steady rhythm. He'd chosen sleep over her, oblivion over duty. Why? The whisper cracked like glass. She crossed the room, heart pounding, and shook his shoulder. Ronan, wake up. Nothing. Her voice broke. I am your wife. Silence answered her. She sank onto the edge of the bed. You rule a kingdom with honor. You protect your people. But you won't even look at me. Her throat tightened. I don't need your love, she lied. Just let me be a mother. Let me have something of you to keep. He didn't stir. So she lay down beside him, because the world expected her to. Because she was queen. Because appearances had to survive where love had not. Her hand rested inches from his. The fire crackled faintly. Then a breath. A shift. His fingers brushed hers. It was nothing. A twitch. A reflex. But her whole heart stopped. That warmth, that touch, even accidental, it was everything she'd craved for 9 long years. Her eyes burned. Her chest ached. And she thought, sometimes a single touch can ruin all your strength. She let the tears fall quietly unseen. 9 years of being untouchable. 9 years of pretending she didn't care. 9 years of waiting for something that might never come. But that night, as she lay beside the sleeping Alpha King of Lythis, Elara let herself believe, just for a heartbeat, that maybe the gods weren't done with her yet. The morning after was quiet. Too quiet. Queen Elara awoke alone. The space beside her was cold. The sheets untouched, as if the night had never happened. She sat at the edge of the bed, tracing the line where her husband's arm had rested. No scent of him lingered. No warmth. Just emptiness. She rose and dressed in silence. Queens did not cry before sunrise. By the time the first rays touched the towers of Lythis, she was already in the council chamber, wearing her calm like a crown. King Ronan presided beside her, tall, distant, composed. He never once looked her way. 9 years of that. 2 rulers bound by politics and appearances. 2 wolves pretending the bond between them did not exist. Sometimes, she forgot what his voice sounded like when it wasn't directed at ministers or soldiers. She had learned to find meaning in the smallest things, a nod across the table, a flicker of his eyes when she spoke out of turn. Signs that maybe, beneath all that restraint, something still lived. But those moments vanished as quickly as they came. That evening, the palace prepared for celebration, a diplomatic feast to welcome envoys from the eastern territories. Every corridor filled with silk, perfume, and murmured rumors. Elara stood before her mirror once more, her maid brushing silver dust across her shoulders. Will His Majesty dance tonight? The maid asked carefully. The question hung in the air like smoke. Elara met her own eyes in the mirror. No, she said quietly. He never does. The ballroom glittered. Hundreds of candles floated above polished marble. The music rose, a slow, romantic waltz that seemed to mock her. Elara sat at the high table beside an empty chair, the king's seat. He was already on the dance floor. With someone else. Her breath caught. King Ronan moved with easy grace, his hand at the waist of Princess Selene of the Eastern Isles, the visiting Alpha's daughter. Their movements were flawless, rehearsed, beautiful. It was politics, she told herself. A gesture of courtesy. But the sight pierced her anyway. The court watched too. Their whispers carried. He dances with her. He never dances with his queen. Perhaps he finally found a woman who can stir his blood. Elara kept her smile in place. A queen must never flinch before her own people. But inside, gods, it hurt. When the music ended, Ronan bowed to Princess Selene. She curtsied, radiant. He smiled, a faint, polite curve of his lips. A smile she'd never received. Elara turned her face toward her goblet, hiding the tears that threatened. Her hand trembled as she lifted it. A voice beside her broke the silence. "Your Majesty?" She turned. A man stood there, bowing low. Ambassador Darius, the envoy from the neighboring realm. Golden hair, calm eyes, and the kind of charm that could make women feel seen. "Forgive me," he said softly. "It feels wrong to see a queen left alone while the world dances." Ilara's throat tightened. "The king is fulfilling his duties. As must I." "Then allow me to help you fulfill yours," Darius said with a small smile. He extended his hand. "Dance with me, Your Majesty. If not for politics, then for yourself." Eyes followed them as she hesitated. She felt the weight of 100 gazes, and one in particular. Across the hall, King Ronan had turned. His silver eyes found hers. The air between them shifted, heavy charged. Ilara took Darius's hand. The music swelled. Her first dance in 9 years. He was careful, the ambassador. Polite, charming, attentive. He asked about the kingdom, her people, her life as queen. She answered with poise, but her pulse betrayed her. Because every turn, every spin, brought her face to face with her husband's burning stare across the ballroom. She didn't need to hear him speak. His gaze said enough. Possessive. Furious. Jealous. It made her knees weak. It made her heart race. It made her hate that after all these years, his anger still had power over her. Darius leaned closer. "I've heard the whispers," he murmured. "About your marriage. About your loneliness." Ilara's chest tightened. "You shouldn't believe gossip." "Sometimes," he said softly, "gossip hides the truth." He twirled her gently, his hand warm at her back. "You deserve to be touched, Ilara. To be wanted." Her breath caught. Then the air shifted again, colder this time. The scent of storm. Of dominance. She didn't have to look to know who had moved closer. Ronan. The king of Lythis stood at the edge of the dance floor, his jaw clenched, his eyes molten. The musicians faltered. The room seemed to tilt. Darius didn't stop dancing. "He's watching us," he whispered. "Shall we give him something to see?" Ilara's voice was low. "You should stop talking." But she could feel Ronan's fury like thunder rolling through her bones. And maybe, just maybe, part of her wanted him to burn. To finally feel something. When Darius leaned in, whispering too close to her ear, Ronan moved. The king's hand clamped down on Darius's shoulder, stopping the dance. His voice was low, deadly. "Ambassador." A word. The ballroom fell silent. Ronan's eyes met Ilara's. And for the first time in 9 years, he said her name. Ilara. Just one word. But it broke something open inside her, sharp and hot and dangerous. Because in that single breath, she heard everything he'd buried for 9 long years. The room watched in silence as the king of Lythis led the ambassador away. Ilara stood frozen in the center of the ballroom, her pulse still echoing the music that had stopped. Around her, the whispers began again, louder this time. "The king's jealous. The queen has stirred him." After all these years? She exhaled slowly, fighting to keep her hands steady. Maybe tonight was different after all. Her heart whispered a question she'd never dared to ask aloud. What does it mean when a man who has never touched you suddenly looks ready to tear the world apart for you? The music died in the ballroom. The whispers swelled like waves behind her, but Queen Ilara couldn't move. She stood there, frozen in the same spot where her husband had said her name. After 9 years of silence, he'd finally spoken it. And the sound still trembled through her veins like lightning. Ilara. The echo clung to her like a memory she didn't know how to hold. The corridor beyond the ballroom stretched empty and cold. Guards stood at a distance, unsure if they should interfere. No one dared approach the Alpha King when his aura burned like this. Ilara moved without thinking, her heart hammering. She didn't mean to follow, but her feet disobeyed. Down the long marble hall, she caught glimpses, the sharp sound of voices, the edge of Ronan's fury, Darius's frightened protests, the sound of glass breaking. Then silence. She turned the corner and stopped. Ronan stood there, one hand braced against the wall, chest rising and falling with harsh breaths. The ambassador was gone. Only the scent of fear and smoke lingered. Ronan? He didn't answer. Didn't even look at her. His jaw was tight, his eyes fixed on the floor as if wrestling something inside him. Alara took a slow step closer. What happened? His voice came low, rough. He touched you. She blinked. He asked me to dance. Ronan's head snapped up, eyes burning gold around the edges, his wolf bleeding through. You think I didn't hear him? His voice was almost a growl. I heard every word he whispered to you. Alara's pulse jumped. You were listening? I was watching, he said. For 9 years, I've watched every man in this court look at you, wondering if one day you'd stop waiting for me. The words hit hard. She stared at him, breathless. Waiting, she repeated, barely a whisper. For you. Ronan's laugh was low and bitter. Don't pretend you haven't. I see it in your eyes every time you walk through my door. Then tell me why, Alara snapped suddenly. Her voice rose, raw and shaking. Why do you do this? Why marry me only to lock me out of your life? Out of your touch? Do you think I don't feel the bond? Do you think I don't? Her voice cracked. She looked away, swallowing hard. He took a step closer. The scent of him filled the air, smoke and cedar, salt and storm. His voice softened. You don't understand. Then make me understand, she burst out. Because I can't keep living beside a ghost, Ronan. You're my husband. My mate. My king. I deserve to know why you look at me like you're drowning and still refuse to reach for me. He flinched, just slightly. For a moment, his mask slipped. And she saw it, pain, guilt, something deeper. He whispered, you wouldn't believe me. Try me. The silence between them stretched like a blade. Ronan turned away, running a hand through his hair. There are things you don't know. Things I promised never to say. To whom? He didn't answer. Her heart twisted. You'd rather make me your prisoner than tell me the truth? Ronan's eyes flashed again. I'm protecting you. From what? From me. Her breath caught. From you, she whispered. He stepped closer, too close now, until the air between them crackled with tension. His voice came low. You think this bond is simple. You think I stayed away because I didn't want you. He leaned in, his gaze fierce and wounded. But I stayed away because if I ever gave in even once, I'd never let you go. Alara stared at him, trembling. Then why is that wrong? Because I'm cursed, he said. His words barely above a whisper. She blinked, startled. Cursed? Ronan's joy tightened. The night before our wedding, I made a vow to save this kingdom. A vow bound in blood and ancient magic. It keeps Lythis safe, but it came with a price. What price? He met her gaze, eyes full of sorrow. If I ever claim you, truly claim you, the one who cast the spell will come for our firstborn. The air left her lungs. Alara stared, speechless. You're saying, all this time, you stayed away to protect a child that doesn't even exist? Yes. She took a step back. 9 years, Ronan. 9 years of distance. Of humiliation. Of me thinking you hated me. I never hated you, he said hoarsely. Every day, I wanted to break that vow. Every night, I almost did. Her chest tightened. Then you should have told me. I couldn't. The curse forbids me from speaking it. You shouldn't even know this now. Something inside her cracked, not from anger, but from heartbreak. For so long, she had believed she wasn't enough. Now she realized it was because he loved her too much. But love was no comfort when it came laced with that much pain. The torches flickered, their light catching the gold in his eyes. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. Then Alara whispered, "So what happens now?" Ronan exhaled slowly. "Nothing changes." Her throat tightened. "Nothing. I will keep my distance," he said quietly. "You will remain queen. And we will keep Lythis safe." Alara's vision blurred. "You expect me to pretend again? After this?" He turned away. "I expect you to live." Her heart broke cleanly, quietly, like glass underfoot. That night, Alara sat alone in her chambers. The fire had long since died. The kingdom slept. But she couldn't. Her mind replayed every word, every look, every time he'd walked away. And now the truth made it worse. Because he hadn't rejected her out of cruelty, but out of fear. He'd given her loneliness as a gift of love. How do you hate a man for that? How do you forgive him? She didn't know. All she knew was the ache inside her chest was unbearable. Her wolf paced restlessly beneath her skin, growling for what was theirs. For him. She whispered into the quiet, "Why can't love ever be enough?" Her voice trembled, almost breaking. And then she caught herself thinking the same thought she'd once buried deep. Would you wait for love that keeps hurting you, or would you walk away to save yourself? The next morning, the palace was alive with rumors. The king had nearly struck an ambassador. The queen had danced with another man. The council whispered about scandal and alliances. Alara walked through the halls with her head high, her heart in ruins. When she reached the council chamber, Ronan was already there, composed, distant, unreadable. Their eyes met briefly. For the first time, she saw guilt there. Regret. Then he looked away. She realized with a quiet ache that this was how it would always be. A love forbidden by magic. A bond tied by fate and broken by fear. But deep inside, beneath the layers of hurt and duty, something else stirred, a spark of defiance. Because maybe fate had written their story, but she wasn't done changing the ending. That night, while the rest of the castle slept, Queen Alara of Lythis lit a single candle and stood before the mirror. Her reflection stared back, tired, beautiful, determined. "You've waited 9 years," she whispered to herself. "Maybe it's time to stop waiting." But as the flame flickered, she felt it again, that invisible thread pulling at her heart. The bond. Alive. Restless. Hungry. And somewhere in the dark, she felt him too. King Ronan, awake, alone, fighting the same impossible war inside his chest. Her story was no longer about surviving his distance. It was about discovering what she was willing to risk for love. And that was only the beginning. The next few days in Lythis were heavy with silence. Not just the usual kind, the cold, royal kind, but something deeper. Something that hummed under the surface like a storm waiting for permission to break. Alara felt it in the air. In the way courtiers looked at her and whispered. In the way servants moved carefully, avoiding the king's gaze. The night of the ball had changed everything. Ronan had spoken her name. He had touched her arm before leading Darius away. And though he had pulled back again, something between them had shifted. On the third morning, Alara stood on the palace balcony, overlooking the frozen gardens. Snow clung to the statues of wolves that guarded the courtyard below. Her breath clouded the air. A servant approached quietly. "A message for you, Your Majesty." She took it, breaking the seal. The handwriting was unfamiliar. But the words were not. "Some vows are meant to break, my queen." The blood curse was never his alone. "A friend." Her pulse skipped. She read it again, her mind racing. Who had sent her that? How would they even know about the curse? Alara folded the letter quickly, hiding it in her sleeve. Later that afternoon, she joined the council for session. Her chair sat beside Ronan's, as always. Close enough to feel his presence. Far enough that their hands never brushed. He spoke with his usual authority, calm, commanding, distant. But when he looked her way, something in his gaze flickered. Softness. Regret. Longing. And for the first time in 9 years, she didn't look away. After the meeting, as she rose to leave, a familiar voice stopped her. Your Majesty. Ambassador Darius. He bowed, the perfect diplomat. I owe you an apology. Ilara studied him, cautious. You owe it to my husband, not me. I've already spoken to him. Darius's smile was faint, tired. He didn't strike me. He could have. I respect him for that. Ilara's brow furrowed. Then what do you want from me? His eyes softened. Nothing. Except to understand how a woman like you keeps standing tall in a cage built of silence. Her breath hitched. You know nothing of my cage. I know a queen when I see one, he said quietly. And I know pain when it's killing her. She looked away. You speak too boldly for an envoy. I speak like a man who's seen enough kingdoms to recognize a lonely soul. He hesitated. Tell me something, Ilara. If love demanded you break the laws of gods and kings, would you? She turned toward him, startled by the question. The words in the letter echoed in her mind. Some vows are meant to break. Careful, ambassador, she whispered. Some questions are dangerous. He smiled faintly. So are some truths. Then he bowed again and left her standing there, heart pounding. That night, Ilara couldn't sleep. The letter. Darius's words. Ronan's confession. They tangled together like thorns around her heart. She paced her chambers, the firelight painting gold across her gown. The curse, it didn't make sense. Magic that could take a child's life? A vow sealed before their wedding? If the gods demanded such a sacrifice, then maybe the gods weren't just. She thought of Ronan's eyes, that quiet sorrow in them when he said, If I ever claim you, I'll lose our child. He had chosen restraint over ruin. And yet, 9 years of restraint had become its own kind of ruin. Ilara pressed a trembling hand against her heart. Her wolf stirred restlessly beneath her skin, whispering in a voice older than thought. He is yours. You are his. The bond will not die unclaimed. She sank onto the bed, whispering into the silence. I can't keep living like this. The bond pulsed faintly, a heartbeat echoing through her veins. Far across the palace, Ronan stood in the war chamber, staring at the maps spread before him. But his thoughts were nowhere near borders or armies. They were with her. He could still smell her, moonlight and jasmine, the scent that haunted his every breath. His beta, Commander Rain, spoke from beside him. Your Majesty, the council fears scandal after the ball. They say the queen's dance. Enough, Ronan cut in. Rain hesitated. Forgive me, but they question your control. The ambassador still lingers. His presence. I said enough, Ronan growled. His eyes glowed faintly gold. Rain bowed. Yes, my king. He hesitated. They also say the queen looks distant. Ronan's hand curled around the edge of the table. She has every right to be. Rain's expression softened. Then tell her the truth. End the curse. Ronan's joy tightened. You think I haven't tried? The blood magic binds itself to the bloodline. If broken, it destroys the one who made the vow and all connected to them. Rain stared. Including her? Ronan's silence was answer enough. The next morning, the court gathered for prayers in the Temple of the Moon. Ilara stood at the front, her hands clasped, her head bowed beneath the silver light that filtered through the stained glass. Beside her, the king stood motionless, as he always did. When the prayer ended, she turned to leave, but a whisper stopped her. Ilara. His voice. Soft. Low. Dangerous. She turned slowly. Your Majesty. Walk with me. Her pulse quickened. They moved down a quiet corridor, footsteps echoing softly. When they reached the garden, he stopped. The winter roses had begun to bloom, pale and stubborn against the cold. Ronan's voice was careful. I heard about the letter. Alara froze. What letter? The one left in your chambers. Do not deny it. I have eyes everywhere. Her heart raced. You read it. I burned it. Why? She demanded. Because whoever sent it knows too much. He stepped closer. Did you speak to anyone about what I told you? Her chest tightened. No. Only you. Then someone is watching. The words sent a chill down her spine. Do you know who? She whispered. His eyes darkened. No. But I intend to find out. She studied him quietly. Beneath the armor of power, she saw it again, the man she had almost forgotten. The one who laughed once, long ago, before vows and curses turned him to stone. And something inside her softened. Ronan, she said gently, you don't have to face this alone. His gaze snapped to hers. I do, he said. Because if I don't, you die. Her breath hitched. You keep saying that, but you never let me choose. Maybe I'd rather live one real night with you than a lifetime without you. His expression broke. For the first time, she saw him falter. He whispered, Don't tempt me, Alara. Maybe you need to be tempted. The space between them pulsed heavy, magnetic. He took a step forward, and she didn't move away. 9 years of distance vanished in the span of a heartbeat. His scent surrounded her: smoke, cedar, winter rain. Her voice was barely a whisper. What if breaking the curse is the only way to save us both? He reached out slow, hesitant, his fingers brushing her cheek. Fire. That's what it felt like. After 9 years, even that simple touch burned through her like wildfire. He closed his eyes as if fighting himself. If I start, I won't stop. Her heart pounded. Then don't. The world held its breath. And then, just as his lips almost touched hers, a guard burst through the garden gate, breathless. Your Majesties. They sprang apart. What is it? Ronan demanded. The guard bowed low. An envoy has arrived. From the southern covens. They bring word of the blood vow. Alara's blood ran cold. Ronan's hand clenched at his side. Bring them to the throne room. The guard hesitated. They asked to speak only to the queen. The silence that followed was thick and dangerous. Alara's gaze met Ronan's. Then I will hear them, she said quietly. His jaw tightened. Not without me. But the messenger's words rang in her head. They asked to speak only to the queen. Whatever truth waited for her now, it was coming for her alone. That night, long after the envoy's arrival, Alara sat in the candlelit chamber, heart heavy with questions. Who had sent the letter? What did the southern covens want? And what secret still lay buried beneath Ronan's vow? The flames flickered. Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains. Somewhere in the dark halls of the palace, she could feel him, pacing, restless, fighting the same pull that tore through her veins. The bond between them throbbed faintly, not dead. Just waiting. And deep inside, Alara knew the curse wasn't the only danger now. Someone or something wanted to make sure she and the Alpha King never broke it. The night whispered her name. And in that whisper, she heard destiny stirring awake. Thunder rolled across the mountains, low and steady. The storm had been brewing all evening, but Alara could feel another storm inside her, older, sharper, full of truths that wanted to be spoken. The envoy from the southern covens waited in the throne room. Alara's hands were cold as she entered, her crown heavy with expectation. 4 women stood there in dark green cloaks, their faces half hidden by the hoods. The leader stepped forward. Her eyes were pale gold, almost glowing. Your Majesty, she said, bowing low. I am Marath of the Southern Circle. We were sent because the curse that binds your bond is stirring. Alara's heart tightened. You know about it. We do. Because we were the ones who forged it. The room seemed to tilt. Alara froze. What did you say? The blood vow that shackles your mate's desire, the one that chains the Alpha King's bond, it was cast by our order 9 years ago. Maretha's voice was steady. But it was not your husband who sought us out. The silence in the chamber thickened. Alara's voice was barely a whisper. Then who? Maretha's eyes softened with something like pity. Your sister, Princess Lyra. Alara's world stopped. The air left her lungs in a single breath. Lyra, she repeated, disbelief breaking through her voice. Mareth nodded. She came to us the night before your wedding. She begged us to protect you from the curse of the royal bond. She feared you would suffer, that your heart would be consumed by it. Alara's chest ached. She said she wanted to protect me? She claimed she did it for love, Mareth said quietly. But the spell we gave her was never meant to last this long. It was meant to fade when the Alpha King chose to break it. But something interfered. Another hand strengthened the vow. Alara gripped the arm of the throne to stay upright. Who? Maretha's gaze dropped. Someone who desired power. Someone who used your sister's fear as a doorway. Alara's voice cracked. Tell me who strengthened it. Mareth hesitated. We do not speak their name lightly. But the magic bears the mark of Ambassador Darius. The room swayed around her. Her mind flashed to his face, his easy smile, his gentle voice, his careful questions. His words at the ball. If love demanded you break the laws of gods and kings, would you? Alara's throat closed. She whispered, he knew. Mareth nodded. He has studied the blood arts. He knew how to anchor the curse so it could not be undone without a sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? One of the bonded souls must give up their life to free the other. Alara's pulse stopped for a beat. One of us must die, she murmured. Yes, Mareth said. And if the curse is not broken soon, the magic will consume the one bound by it. The king's strength will fade. His wolf will turn on himself. Alara stepped back, shaking her head. No, that can't be true. He's strong. He's not for much longer. Thunder cracked above them, shaking the stained glass windows. Maretha's cloak fluttered in the wind that swept through the room. We can help you, she said softly. But you must choose quickly. Every moonrise, the curse deepens. Alara's voice trembled. And if I do nothing? Then your king will die. And the bond will die with him. That night, Alara couldn't breathe. The truth pressed down on her chest like a mountain. Lyra. Her own sister. Darius. The envoy's words twisted through her mind, tangling every memory she had. She thought of Lyra's face, her fierce love, her constant meddling. She had thought it was pity, protection. Now she saw it for what it was, fear turned into betrayal. And Darius, the man who had danced with her, who had whispered to her that she deserved to be wanted. He had been the anchor of the curse all along. Alara sank to the floor beside the fire, her hands clutching the edge of her gown. Her wolf growled low within her, restless, furious. He's dying, it whispered. And he doesn't even know why. She pressed a hand to her chest. I have to tell him, she whispered. He deserves to know. But another voice whispered back, her fear. If she told him, he might sacrifice himself. He would trade his life for hers without hesitation. And she couldn't let that happen. She rose slowly, her decision solidifying like ice. She would find Darius. She would end the curse herself. The next morning, the palace awoke to a storm that refused to stop. Lightning split the sky, thunder rolling endlessly. It was as if the gods themselves felt the unrest inside their king and queen. Ronan sat alone in the council chamber, his hands clenched around a scroll. His eyes were rimmed with exhaustion. He hadn't slept in 2 nights. When Alara entered, he looked up sharply. Where have you been? Meeting with the envoy. He rose instantly. You shouldn't have gone alone. They came for me, she said softly. Not you. Ronan's jaw tensed. And what did they say? Alara's heart pounded. She wanted to tell him the truth about Lyra, about Darius, about the curse eating away at his soul. But the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she said, they confirmed the curse grows stronger. Ronan exhaled. Then I was right to keep my distance. Alara flinched. You think this is victory? Watching me from across a room while your body withers under magic. I'm protecting you, he roared, slamming a hand against the table. And who protects you? She shot back. Who saves the man who thinks love is a weapon? The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Ronan turned away. You should rest. Alara's voice trembled. I can't. Not when I know what's coming. He turned, his eyes meeting hers. What do you mean? Nothing, she said quickly. Just nothing. But her voice betrayed her. He crossed the room, every step slow, deliberate. You're hiding something. Her pulse raced. I'm trying to save you. Ronan stopped. From what? Alara looked at him, her heart breaking. From yourself. Then she walked away before he could stop her. By nightfall, she found her sister. Lyra was in her tower, reading by candlelight. When Alara entered, her sister smiled, but it faltered at the sight of her face. Alara? What's wrong? Alara shut the door behind her. Tell me the truth, she said quietly. Lyra frowned. About what? About the night before my wedding. The silence that followed was an answer. Alara took a slow step forward. You went to the covens. You made a deal. Lyra's hands trembled. Alara, please. Why? Her voice cracked. Why would you do that to me? Tears welled in Lyra's eyes. Because you loved him too much. Alara froze. Lyra's voice broke. You don't remember, but the night before the wedding, you came to me terrified. You said you could feel his wolf calling you before the bond was even sealed. You said it burned. That it felt like drowning. I thought the bond would consume you. I thought I was saving you. Alara's throat tightened. You were supposed to trust me. Not the witches. Lyra's tears fell freely now. I thought I was protecting you. But then Darius came. He said the vow could stabilize the kingdom, make the king's power absolute. I didn't know he was lying. I swear I didn't. Alara's breath came fast. You brought him into it. Lyra sobbed. I didn't mean to. Alara turned away, shaking. You gave him a weapon. You made him our jailer. I'm sorry, Lyra whispered. If I could undo it, I would. Alara faced her, eyes wet but fierce. You will help me fix it? Lyra nodded through her tears. Whatever it takes. Outside, lightning split the sky again, illuminating the castle in a blaze of white. From the shadows of the corridor, Ambassador Darius watched the sisters through the half-open door. His smile was calm. Cold. He whispered to himself, let her try. The curse feeds on love. The more they fight for it, the stronger it grows. He turned and disappeared into the storm. Back in her tower, Alara sank to her knees, the weight of it all crushing her. Her husband was dying. Her sister had betrayed her. The man she thought was kind was the enemy. And yet, somewhere deep inside her chest, her wolf refused to give in. You're his mate, it whispered. You are the heart of the bond. Alara lifted her head, her tears glinting in the firelight. No curse, she said softly, can outlive what was written in blood and soul. And as thunder rolled over the mountains once more, she rose to her feet, ready to face the storm, even if it meant walking straight into the heart of it. The storm raged for 3 days. Wind tore through the battlements. Rain lashed the palace walls until the gardens flooded. The people of Lythis whispered that the gods were angry. But Alara knew better. The storm wasn't from the heavens. It was coming from him. From the Alpha King whose strength had begun to fade. The first time she saw it, she almost didn't believe it. Ronan, always tall, unbreakable, the storm inside the storm, stumbled on the steps of the council chamber. A single misstep, quick, unnoticed by most. But not by her. He brushed it off with a muttered word and the straightening of his cloak. Still, she saw the tremor in his hand when he reached for the table. By the second day, the whispers started. The king looks tired. His aura is dimming. The Alpha's wolf hasn't been seen for days. By the third day, he didn't leave his chambers at all. Ilara stood outside his door that morning, heart pounding. The guards hesitated. "My queen," one murmured, "His Majesty gave orders that no one is to disturb him." She looked up, her voice low but firm. "He gave no such order to his wife." The guards stepped aside. She entered the room. The fire was out. The curtains drawn. The air thick with sickness and storm. And there he was, sitting by the window, head bowed, his skin pale, his breath shallow. Her heart clenched. Ronan. He looked up slowly, eyes dull, golden light flickering weakly in their depths. "Ilara," he rasped. She moved closer. "You should have called for me." He tried to smile. "I didn't want you to see me like this." Her voice trembled. "I've seen you in every way but this, and that's the one that hurts most." He tried to stand, but his knees buckled. She caught him before he fell, his weight heavy against her. "Ronan, please," she whispered. "You have to let me help." His voice came soft and broken. "You can't." "I can try." He met her eyes, and something in his gaze shattered her. "Ilara, if the curse keeps feeding on me, the bond will break. You'll feel it first. Like your heart being torn from your chest." Her throat closed. "Then we break it before it breaks you." "You don't understand," he whispered. "To break it, one of us must." "I know." He froze. "You know?" She nodded, tears brimming. "I met with the Southern Covens. They told me everything. About Lyra. About Darius. About what it costs." Ronan's eyes widened with horror. "Ilara, I'm not going to let you die," she said fiercely. "You've carried this curse alone for too long." He grasped her shoulders weakly. "If you even try, the magic will turn on you." "Then let it," she whispered. "Ilara." "No," her voice broke. "I'm done being the queen who watches from a distance. If fate wants blood, it can take mine." For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Only the storm outside moved, its rhythm matching the thunder of their hearts. He cupped her face, trembling. "You die for me?" Her tears fell onto his hands. "I'd rather die your mate than live your stranger." Something in him cracked, the wall he'd built all these years. He pulled her close, burying his face against her neck, breathing her in like she was the only air left in the world. "Ilara," he whispered, voice raw. "Don't ask me to let you go through that pain." "Then don't ask me to watch you die," she said softly. "Because that's what you're doing now." That night, the storm grew wilder. Lightning split the sky again and again, lighting up the towers of Lythis like bones in the dark. Ilara stayed by his side, feeding the fire, wiping his brow, whispering to him when he drifted in and out of sleep. Once he woke in a cold sweat, his eyes glowing faintly, wolf fighting for control. "Keep away," he gasped. "It's inside me, the magic, it's..." She pressed her palm to his chest. "Breathe, Ronan." "I'm here." Her own wolf rose within her, a low, protective hum that steadied his trembling. And for a moment, his breathing eased. He looked up at her, eyes wet. "You don't deserve this." She smiled through her tears. "Maybe not, but I chose it." He closed his eyes, whispering, "I love you." Her heart stopped. She'd dreamed of hearing those words for 9 long years. But now that they'd come, they hurt more than anything. Because love wasn't enough to stop death. Hours passed. The candles burned down to stubs. And then the door burst open. Lyra. Her face was pale, her eyes wild. He's dying, isn't he? Alara rose. How did you? I can feel it, Lyra said, clutching the doorway. I went to the witches again. They said the curse is feeding faster now. Someone's strengthening it. Alara's stomach dropped. Darius. Lyra nodded. He's in the catacombs beneath the palace. He's using the old blood altar. He means to bind the curse to you. Alara's pulse roared in her ears. To me? Lyra's voice shook. He wants to kill Ronan and claim you. The curse will make you his if Ronan dies. No, Alara's wolf growled inside her, furious. Not while I breathe. Ronan stirred weakly on the bed. Alara. She knelt beside him, pressing her forehead to his. Stay with me. I'll come back. I swear it. He tried to catch her wrist, but his strength failed. Alara. Trust me, she whispered. For once, trust me to fight for us. And she was gone before he could stop her. The catacombs beneath Lythis were ancient, carved into stone long before the palace stood. Alara moved through the tunnels with a single torch, her heart pounding in time with the echoes of her steps. The air smelled of blood and iron. And ahead, faint chanting. She followed the sound until she reached the great chamber, the old altar, slick with fresh crimson light. And there stood Darius. He turned slowly, his hands stained with magic, his smile calm. I knew you'd come, he said softly. You always were braver than he deserved. Her hand went to the dagger at her waist. You betrayed me. You cursed us. He tilted his head. I freed you. You just don't see it yet. By killing my mate? He sighed. Ronan's death will end the curse and make the bond yours to command. You'll be free of pain, of hunger, of fate. Her eyes flashed. I don't want freedom bought with blood. Darius's expression hardened. Then you'll die with him. He lifted his hand. Magic flared red and black, old and alive. The force hit her like a wall, throwing her back against the stone. Pain burned through her chest, but her wolf surged up, furious, answering the call of the bond. Enough, she cried. Her voice carried power she didn't know she had. The air around her shimmered gold, the bond magic awakening. It pulsed outward, cracking the altar's runes, shaking the ground. Darius staggered, eyes wide. Impossible. You shouldn't. I'm his mate, she said, her voice steady. His soul is mine. And I'll burn your curse with it. She raised her hands, light spilling from her palms, golden threads wrapping around the crimson curse like sunlight catching blood. Darius screamed as the light tore through him. The altar shattered. The ceiling shook. And then silence. When the dust settled, Darius was gone. Nothing left but ashes and the faint scent of burnt magic. Alara fell to her knees, gasping. Her vision swam, her body trembling. She could feel the bond pulling violently, painfully back toward the palace. Ronan, she whispered. The bond flared again, a heartbeat calling across distance. Fading. She pushed herself up, running through the tunnels, her wolf lending strength where her body faltered. By the time she reached his chambers, the door was already open. Lyra knelt beside the bed, sobbing. Alara rushed forward. Ronan lay still, too still. No, she breathed, falling beside him. Ronan, open your eyes. He didn't move. She pressed her palms to his chest, her tears falling fast. I broke it. I ended it. You can't leave me now. Please. Her voice cracked. Then, faintly, a shiver beneath her hands. A spark of heat. And then his heart. A single, strong beat. Her breath caught. He gasped, eyes flying open, gold light blazing in them. Alara. She sobbed, laughing through her tears. You came back. His hand found hers. You called me back. She fell against him, their foreheads touching. The storm outside finally began to fade. But as the thunder rolled into silence, Elara knew this wasn't over. Darius's body might be gone, but his magic had whispered something before it vanished, something she couldn't unhear. You broke the curse, Queen of Lythis, but at a cost you do not yet understand. And deep in her bones, she knew he was right. The night might be quiet, but the darkness wasn't done with them yet. The storm had passed, leaving the world washed and still. Every tower of the palace glistened under a thin veil of rain, as if the heavens themselves had paused to breathe again. Inside, the fire in Ronan's chamber burned bright for the first time in weeks. And Elara sat beside his bed, her hand laced with his. He slept, but it wasn't the deathly stillness she had seen before. This was rest, deep, alive, warm. She watched the rise and fall of his chest, the faint flicker of light under his skin where the curse had burned itself out. She wanted to memorize every breath, every small sign of life. For the first time in 9 years, she let herself imagine a future. When Ronan finally stirred, dawn was creeping through the curtains. He blinked, disoriented, then looked at her. For a heartbeat, he said nothing. Then a hoarse whisper escaped him. You stayed. Elara smiled softly, exhaustion and relief mingling in her eyes. I wasn't going anywhere. He tried to sit up, grimacing. What happened? You died, she said quietly. And then you came back. His gaze sharpened. The curse. Broken. He went still, searching her face for any trace of deceit. When he found none, his breath left him in a shaky sigh. How? Elara hesitated. I found Darius. Or maybe he found me. He was in the catacombs. I ended it. His eyes darkened. You faced him alone? She looked down at their joined hands. I had to. Ronan's voice broke with something between awe and fear. You could have died. I almost did. Her voice trembled, but she didn't look away. I wasn't afraid. His thumb brushed the back of her hand, tender and careful. You should have been. No, she said quietly. I've spent 9 years afraid of losing you without ever having you. Fear has already stolen too much. He stared at her, something fragile flickering across his face. Gratitude, guilt, wonder, love. Elara, he said softly, her name more prayer than word. And then, finally, after years of silence and distance, he reached for her. Slowly, as if afraid she'd vanish. She didn't. Their foreheads touched, breath mingling, hearts sinking. The bond, that ancient, invisible thread, pulsed between them like fire waking from slumber. Her wolf rose within her, fierce and tender all at once. Finally, it whispered. Tears slipped down her cheeks, though she was smiling. I thought I'd lost you. He shook his head faintly. You saved me. Again. Elara's voice broke. We saved each other. They stayed like that for a long while, 2 halves of a story that had almost ended too soon. When Ronan finally leaned back, he looked different. Lighter. As if the shadows had finally stepped back from his soul. I felt it, he said quietly. When the curse broke. It was like chains falling away. For the first time in years, I could feel you. Really feel you. Elara's lips curved. Then you know what it cost. He frowned. What do you mean? Her smile faltered. Darius's last words. He said I'd paid a price I didn't understand. Ronan's brow creased. What price? She looked away, out the window, where sunlight touched the whetstones. I don't know. But I feel it. Something's missing. Something's changed. His hand tightened around hers. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. She met his eyes, tears shimmering again. Promise me that's not another vow you'll try to keep alone. He smiled faintly. No more vows. Only truths. The following days passed in quiet repair. The kingdom celebrated the end of the storm, though few knew what it truly meant. Rumors of Ambassador Darius's disappearance spread through the court like wildfire. Some said he'd fled. Others whispered the gods had struck him down. Alara didn't correct them. She was done explaining pain to people who only wanted gossip. She spent her mornings walking through the gardens, the same paths she once walked in silence and longing. Now she walked beside him. Ronan was still healing. His strength returned slowly, his power rekindling one day at a time. But his presence was different now, warmer, freer, alive in a way it had never been. Sometimes he'd watch her while she spoke with the servants or laughed with Lyra, a look of quiet awe in his eyes, as though he still couldn't believe she'd chosen to stay. And every time their gazes met, the old ache, the one made of distance and silence, began to fade. But peace never came without ghosts. One night, as Alara lay awake beside him, she heard it again. A whisper. Soft. Faint. Familiar. You broke the curse, Queen of Lythis, but at a cost you do not yet understand. She sat up sharply, heart pounding. The room was still. Ronan slept beside her, his breathing deep and steady. But the whisper lingered, not in the air this time, but inside her. A dull ache pulsed beneath her ribs. She pressed a hand there, closing her eyes. Her wolf stirred uneasily. And for the first time since the curse broke, she couldn't feel Ronan's aura the same way. The bond still existed, but it felt quieter, dimmer. Fear crawled up her spine. Had she broken the curse only to weaken their bond? She looked at him, sleeping peacefully, unaware. She wanted to wake him, to tell him everything. But she couldn't. Not yet. She lay back down, curling into him, and whispered, "I'll find the truth before it finds us." The next day, Lyra joined her in the library. She'd been distant since the truth came out, guilt hanging between them like a shadow neither could escape. "You're quiet," Alara said gently. Lyra looked up from the book in her hands, her eyes rimmed with fatigue. "I'm trying to fix what I broke." "You can't fix the past, Lyra." Her sister's voice trembled. "But I can make sure you have a future." Alara frowned. "What do you mean?" Lyra reached into her cloak and pulled out a piece of parchment. "I found something in the witch's records about the blood vow." Alara leaned closer as Lyra unrolled it. "It says that when the curse is destroyed by the bonded mate, the energy must go somewhere. Magic doesn't die, it transfers." Alara's heartbeat quickened. "Transfers?" Lyra nodded. "To the one who breaks it." Alara's voice dropped. "You're saying I absorbed it?" "Yes." "The curse didn't vanish, Alara. It lives in you now." Alara's hand flew to her chest, that faint ache pulsing stronger beneath her palm. She swallowed hard. "Does Ronan know?" Lyra shook her head. "Not yet. But he'll feel it soon." Alara closed her eyes. "He already has." That evening, as the moon rose high and pale, Alara found Ronan on the balcony. He was staring out over the kingdom, the night wind pulling at his dark hair. When he heard her, he smiled faintly. "I was wondering how long it would take you to come find me." She stepped beside him. "You always know." "I feel you," he said softly. "Always." But then his smile faded. "It's weaker now. The bond." Alara's breath caught. "You feel it too." He turned toward her, eyes full of worry. "Something's wrong." She looked down. Lyra found something. "The curse didn't disappear, Ronan. It moved." He stared at her, realization dawning. "To you." Alara nodded. "It's inside me now." Ronan's voice cracked. "No. No, that's not possible." She reached for his hand. "It is. I feel it. Every time I breathe, every time I close my eyes, it's there waiting. But it's not killing me. Not yet. He pulled her into his arms, holding her as though his touch could stop time. His voice was a whisper in her hair. You saved me by damning yourself. Her tears fell silently. It was never a choice. He drew back, gripping her shoulders. Then let me share it. What? The curse, the magic, it came from the bond. If it can move, maybe it can split. Between us. Like it should have been from the start. Alara shook her head. You'll die if you try. Ronan's jaw set. So will you if I don't. She saw the determination in his eyes, the same stubborn courage that once made her fall in love with him. And she knew she couldn't stop him any more than she could stop her own heart from beating. That night, beneath the pale light of the moon, they performed the ritual together. No witches. No witnesses. Just them, king and queen, bonded souls, standing at the edge of destiny. They cut their palms and pressed them together, blood mingling, magic rising between them in threads of gold and crimson. The air shimmered, trembling with power. Ronan whispered, whatever happens, I'll find you in this life or the next. Alara's tears glowed in the moonlight. Then we'll always find our way home. Light surged, enveloping them both. Their hearts beat in unison, one rhythm, one flame. The bond reignited, fierce and wild. The curse screamed through their veins, fighting to stay whole, to remain dominant. But together, they broke it apart, piece by piece, until the darkness had nowhere left to go. And when the light faded, they were still standing. Alive. Ronan gasped, holding her tight. It's gone. Alara smiled weakly, her strength slipping. Almost. She swayed, and he caught her. Her skin glowed faintly gold, the last remnants of magic fading from her body. Alara, he whispered urgently. She opened her eyes, smiled through the haze. It's over. Then she fell into his arms. He held her through the night, refusing to let her go. And when dawn came, when the first light touched her face, she stirred, breathing softly against his chest. Alive. Free. Ronan kissed her forehead, his voice breaking. You came back to me. Her lips curved faintly. I always do. And in the quiet that followed, she finally understood this was what love truly was. Not perfection. Not peace. But the choice to keep fighting even when everything hurt. And maybe that was the price the curse had demanded, not life, not death, but understanding. The sun had returned to Lythis. It rose clean and golden over the mountains, spilling light across the palace like forgiveness. The air smelled of whetstone and wild jasmine. For the first time in years, the wind didn't carry whispers of sorrow. Inside, the king and queen of Lythis slept entwined beneath silk sheets. Their breathing was steady, their hearts one rhythm. But beneath the peace, the bond hummed alive, volatile, aware. It wasn't over. When Alara opened her eyes, morning light danced across Ronan's skin. She lay there for a long time, just watching him. The lines of pain were gone from his face. He looked younger. Softer. She traced her fingers lightly over his arm. His wolf stirred beneath the surface, recognizing her touch with a low, content rumble. He opened his eyes and smiled faintly. You're staring. I'm memorizing, she whispered. In case the gods decide they've had enough mercy for one lifetime. He reached up and brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. The gods owe us more than mercy. Her lips curved, but her chest tightened. You said that last night. And I'll say it every morning until you believe it. She wanted to believe it. She wanted to believe that they had won. But somewhere deep inside her, the faint pulse of something dark still lingered. A shadow coiled beneath her ribs, a quiet reminder of the magic she had carried. The curse was gone, wasn't it? By midday, the palace buzzed with celebration. Flags fluttered from every tower. The bells in the Temple of the Moon rang for hours. The king had recovered. The queen was radiant. Peace had returned. The people rejoiced. But inside the walls of the Moon Hall, Lyra stood alone beside the altar, her eyes fixed on a cracked rune etched into the stone. The mark glowed faintly red. Her stomach twisted. "No," she whispered. "It can't be." A faint breeze stirred the flames on the candles. And then, a voice low, disembodied, cold, slithered through the chamber. "Did you really think love could unmake what blood began?" Lyra spun around, heart hammering. The room was empty. Shadows danced along the walls. "Show yourself," she hissed. Laughter answered her, soft and cruel. "You broke my vessel, princess, but you never broke me." Her blood turned to ice. "Darius," she breathed. The shadows thickened, coalescing into a shape, a faint outline of a man, eyes like molten iron. "You should have thanked me. I gave your sister power beyond imagining." Lyra backed away, her hand trembling. "You're dead." "Death is a door," the shadow purred. "And she opened it when she absorbed my curse. Every heartbeat she takes feeds me." "No." Lyra shook her head, tears spilling. "You're lying." "Am I?" "Look at her eyes next time she uses magic. You'll see me staring back." The shadow flickered, thinning, fading with a low laugh that echoed through the chamber. Lyra fell to her knees. "No, gods, no." She ran. Alara stood in the palace courtyard, surrounded by the sound of life, laughter, music, bells. The world was waking again. Ronan approached from behind, his hand warm as it settled on her shoulder. "You should be resting." She turned and smiled faintly. "I can't rest when the whole kingdom is dancing." He studied her face for a long moment. "You've been pale all morning." "I'm fine." He didn't believe her, but he didn't argue. He just brushed his thumb along her jaw. "Come inside soon. I don't want the people to see their queen fainting in the middle of a celebration." Her smile deepened. "You worry too much." "Only because I know what happens when I don't." They both laughed softly, but the sound faded quickly. Alara's gaze drifted toward the mountains, where the storm clouds had broken but hadn't entirely vanished. The sky still looked unsettled. Something stirred inside her. A strange pulse, like a heartbeat out of rhythm. She pressed a hand to her chest, hiding the motion from him. "Ronan," she murmured, "do you ever feel like the magic is still watching us?" He frowned. "The bond?" She hesitated. "No, something else." Before he could respond, the great doors of the courtyard burst open. Lyra ran toward them, her cloak torn, her hair disheveled, her face pale as snow. "Alara," she gasped, voice breaking. "You have to leave. Both of you." Ronan's hand went to his sword. "What's happened?" Lyra stopped, shaking. "He's not gone." Alara's blood ran cold. "Who?" "Darius. His spirit, it's inside the magic. Inside you." The words hit like thunder. Ronan's eyes widened, immediately moving to Alara. "No." Alara staggered back, shaking her head. "That's not possible." Lyra grabbed her hand. "I saw it. I heard him. The curse didn't die, Alara. It moved into you, but his soul went with it." Ronan stepped between them, his aura rising, protective, furious. "How do we get him out?" Lyra's voice cracked. "We can't, not without destroying the bond." Ronan's growl was low and dangerous. "Then we destroy the bond." Alara grabbed his wrist. "No. If the bond breaks, you die. The witches said it. They said it binds to your life." He turned to her, eyes burning. "Then let me die if it means you live." She shook her head, tears spilling. "Don't you dare. I didn't fight this hard to lose you now." The ground trembled beneath their feet. The air thickened. A low hum filled the air, the same frequency that had haunted her dreams since the curse broke. "Alara," Lyra whispered. He's coming through. The wind rose violently, swirling around them in a spiral of dust and light. Voices filled the air, whispers layered over whispers. You took what was mine. You broke my vessel. So now I'll wear yours. Pain seared through Alara's chest. She screamed, dropping to her knees. Golden light burst from her palms, then flickered red. The two colors warred inside her like fire and blood. Ronan caught her, pulling her against him. Fight it, Alara. Don't let him in. Her voice came broken. He's inside me. Lyra began chanting under her breath, the old language of the covens. The air shimmered, but Darius's voice only grew louder. You can't banish what you've become. Ronan pressed his forehead to hers. Look at me. Stay with me. Her eyes glowed gold and crimson, the two lights fighting. I can't. Hold it, she gasped. Yes, you can. You're stronger than him. The ground cracked beneath them. Lightning struck the courtyard wall. The scent of burned stone filled the air. Darius's laughter echoed through the storm of magic. You think love makes you strong. It makes you weak. Ronan roared, his wolf breaking free in a surge of power. Golden fire flared around him, his aura clashing with the red corruption inside her. Alara, he shouted over the chaos. You have to let me in. All the way. No walls. No fear. You're fighting him alone, and he's feeding on it. She sobbed, shaking. If I open the bond fully, it could kill you. He cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. Then I die knowing I finally touched you. Her breath caught. The bond pulsed hard and fast, a heartbeat of light between them. Together, she whispered. Always. And she let go. The explosion of magic split the air. Light flooded the courtyard, searing white and red and gold. The sound was like the sky itself tearing apart. Alara's scream merged with Ronan's growl, their voices entwining, their energies colliding. Darius's spirit shrieked, his form flickering through the light, a twisting shadow caught in the blaze. He reached for her one last time, his voice breaking into fury. You'll never be free. Ronan's voice cut through him like thunder. She already is. The bond flared, the gold light swallowing the crimson. And then everything went silent. When the light faded, Alara collapsed into Ronan's arms. The air smelled of ozone and blood. The courtyard stones were cracked, but the storm had passed. She blinked, dazed. Is it over? Ronan brushed a trembling hand through her hair. He's gone. Lyra knelt beside them, tears streaming down her cheeks. I felt it break. The curse, the shadow, it's all gone. Alara exhaled, shaky and slow. The ache inside her chest was gone. For the first time, her heart felt like her own. Ronan pressed his forehead against hers. You did it. She smiled faintly. We did it. He laughed softly, relief breaking through exhaustion. Remind me never to make you angry. She laughed weakly. You couldn't handle me angry. They both collapsed into quiet laughter, clinging to each other as the world around them began to feel whole again. When they finally rose, the dawn had turned the sky to gold. The palace guards stood frozen, staring at the destruction in awe and fear. But Alara didn't care what they saw. She turned to Ronan, eyes soft. You begged the gods once to save me. Maybe they finally listened. He smiled faintly. Maybe they just got tired of watching us suffer. She reached for his hand, twining their fingers. Then let's not waste what they gave us. Later that day, when the bells of Lythis rang again, the people thought it was for victory. They didn't know the truth. That in the quiet heart of the storm, their king and queen had died and been reborn together. And for the first time in 9 long years, when the sun set, the Alpha King finally touched his queen not with duty, but with devotion. The bond pulsed between them, no longer a curse, but a promise. 2 souls, 1 heartbeat. unbreakable. Morning came slow and gentle, as if the world itself was afraid to disturb the peace that had finally settled over Lythis. The air was warm. The clouds hung soft and high, no longer heavy with storm. The city below the palace stirred to life, streets glittering under golden light. Merchants reopened their stalls. Children laughed and ran through puddles left by the rain. And above it all, the bells of the Temple of the Moon rang, not in warning this time, but in celebration. The curse was broken. Peace had returned. And for the first time in 9 long years, love reigned again in the heart of the kingdom. Inside the palace, the Queen of Lythis stood on her balcony, her hair lifted by the morning wind. Her gown shimmered like dew against sunlight, woven from threads of pale gold. Below her, the people cheered her name, Alara, the queen who had faced death and delivered her kingdom from the storm. But she wasn't thinking about victory. She was thinking about the man standing behind her. "Your people adore you," Ronan murmured, his voice rich with quiet amusement. She turned, smiling faintly. "They adore us." He stepped closer, wrapping his arms around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. "Don't give me too much credit," he said softly. "Half of them think I lost my mind for letting you fight beside me." "You did lose your mind," she teased. "But you found it again when you stopped shutting me out." His lips brushed her temple. "I suppose I did." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the people. For the first time in years, the crowd's joy didn't feel like a performance for survival. It felt pure. Alara closed her eyes, letting herself feel it, the light, the warmth, the bond humming steady and calm between them. The darkness that had haunted her for so long was gone. And yet, somewhere deep within her, a strange emptiness lingered, an echo of everything she had lost and learned. Ronan felt it too. She could tell by the way he held her tighter, as if afraid that peace itself might disappear. "Do you ever wonder," she whispered, "why the gods chose us for this?" He smiled faintly. "Maybe because no one else would have survived it." She laughed softly. "Or maybe because no one else would have been stubborn enough to try." "True," he said, eyes glinting. "You are the most stubborn woman I've ever met." "Careful," she said, turning to face him fully. "That's not how you speak to your queen." His grin deepened. "That's exactly how I speak to my mate." That evening, they walked through the gardens hand in hand. The storm had torn many of the blossoms apart, but new buds already pushed through the soil. Alara knelt to touch one, a small white rose blooming against the odds. She smiled. "They're stronger than they look." "So are you," Ronan murmured. She looked up at him, her eyes reflecting the fading light. "Do you remember the first time we walked here?" "How could I forget?" he said quietly. "You wouldn't look at me. I was too afraid to speak. We were both pretending the bond wasn't there." Alara chuckled softly. "I thought you hated me." "I hated myself," he admitted, "for wanting you and being too cursed to reach for you." Her voice softened. "And now?" He brushed his thumb across her lips. "Now I wake up every morning and wonder how I ever lived without you." She leaned into him, their foreheads touching, breath mingling. The scent of roses, rain, and wolf filled the air. No more silence. No more distance. Only this quiet, simple truth that they had fought so hard to earn. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. The scars of the curse slowly faded from the kingdom. The storms stopped coming. The land grew fertile again. And for the first time in years, Lythis thrived. Ronan's strength returned completely. The council began rebuilding alliances with the other packs. Trade resumed. The people sang again. But the greatest change wasn't in the kingdom. It was in their home. The Moon Palace no longer echoed with silence. Its halls were alive with laughter, warmth, and the soft hum of two wolves whose hearts beat as one. Sometimes, Elara would find herself standing at the nursery door, the same one she used to pass with aching silence, and smile at the sound of what waited beyond it. Because now it wasn't empty. One late spring morning, as sunlight spilled across the room, Lyra entered quietly. She found Elara sitting by the window, rocking gently, her eyes soft and full of wonder. In her arms, wrapped in silver cloth, was a newborn. Lyra's voice broke into a smile. "He's beautiful." Elara looked up, her heart full. "His name is Oren." Lyra knelt beside her, tears shining. "Oren," she repeated. "Golden light." Elara nodded. "For the light that never left us." Lyra touched the baby's tiny hand. "Do you think the curse will ever return?" Elara shook her head. "No. It ended the moment love stopped being afraid." Lyra laughed softly through her tears. "I almost destroyed that love." Elara reached out, taking her sister's hand. "No. You helped me understand it." Lyra's voice wavered. "Can you forgive me?" Elara smiled gently. "I already did." They sat there for a long time, two sisters, once divided by fear, now united by something stronger. When Lyra finally left, she turned back at the door. "He's going to change everything, you know." Elara smiled down at her son. "He already has." That night, the king came to her as the moon rose. He stood at the doorway, watching her cradle their child, his expression soft with awe. "You look like a goddess," he murmured. She looked up at him, tired but glowing. "And you look like a man who's finally found peace." He crossed the room, kneeling beside her, his fingers brushing the baby's cheek. Oren's tiny wolf mark shimmered faintly under his skin, a golden crescent, the symbol of their bond. Ronan exhaled, emotion thick in his voice. "He carries both our magic." Elara nodded. "He carries everything we fought for." Ronan leaned forward, kissing her forehead. "Thank you," he whispered. "For staying. For fighting. For loving me when I didn't deserve it." She smiled through tears. "You were always worth the fight." He kissed her gently. "And you were always the reason I won it." Later, when she finally fell asleep, Ronan stood by the window, holding his son. The moonlight bathed them both in silver. He looked down at the small, perfect face resting against his shoulder and whispered, "You'll grow up in a world where love is not a curse, my son. Where your mother's name will be the first prayer I teach you." Outside, the wind carried his words through the night, across the rooftops of Lythis, down to the river and into the fields where new life had begun to bloom again. The people would speak of that season for generations. Of the Alpha King who faced death and the Queen who broke an ancient curse with nothing but courage and love. They would say that when they walked together, the air itself shimmered. That the moon bowed low to light their path. And sometimes, on quiet nights, when the city slept, the guards would swear they heard laughter, soft and wild, echoing from the royal gardens. The Queen and her king, dancing under the stars. Dizzy narrator's voice / closing reflection. Love doesn't always arrive as a gift. Sometimes it comes as a test, a storm, a curse, a wound you learn to live through. But if you face it with courage, if you hold on when the world tells you to let go, it becomes something stronger than fate. And maybe that's what Elara and Ronan had learned all along. That true love isn't about being chosen by destiny. It's about choosing each other over and over, no matter how many times the storm tries to pull you apart. Would you still have waited for love if it had hurt for 9 long years? Or would you have walked away, not knowing that everything worth having is born from the courage to stay? Maybe that's the question the story leaves behind. And maybe the answer is why it still echoes in every heart that hears it.